Hi, this is Elaine with Uplift Active. In this video, I'll be walking you through how to set up your height adjustable aerial rig from anywhere from 5 to 11 feet tall. Before you begin, please review the manual in detail, reading through to know what to expect for setup. In here, you'll find the footprint guide that will tell you how much space you need on your floor at different heights. That way you can be sure to clear enough space and make sure you have nothing in the way that could cause a trip hazard or possibly get damaged during setup. When you're ready to begin, unpack all your aerial rig parts and make sure that you have everything you need by reviewing the list of parts in the manual. To get started, I recommend making sure that you have also something to put down on the floor to store your parts if you have the floor that might be scratched, or if outside, I recommend bringing a towel or a yoga mat like this to keep anything from getting dirty and to keep everything really nice and neatly in one place. To get started, the first thing you want to do is find your top bar. The top bar is the pole that doesn't have the foot at either end. So this is a bar with two push tabs at each end that you'll use to connect the leg connectors. Depending on how your rig is packaged, it may include the top bar connectors pre-installed on here, or you might need to slide them on. If you need to slide them on, you'll use the push pins at either side to slide the top bar connectors on, and you'll use the smaller end of the top bar connectors to make sure that it will be tightened properly once it's installed. At this point, you just need to slide these connectors on the bar. They don't need to be tightened or moved into place. Just determine if you want one or two, depending if you're rigging a single point sling, a single point aerial silk set or hoop, or if you need both of them, you can put both of them on here if you're doing a double point hammock or a double point hoop. If you're not sure, you can always add two, as it's a lot easier to move the extra one out of the way than to have to disassemble the rig to add another one later on. From here, you can take this bar and add the leg connectors. The leg connectors are these two triangular pieces that connect the top bar to your two legs. You simply need to slide it on to the end of the top bar, paying attention to which end is longer. That's the one that you're going to slide onto the top bar. Once that push pin locks in place, this thing will be secure and ready to hold your legs. You'll do the same thing on the other side, using the push pin to slide on the leg connector. Look at the other side to line up that push pin. Once your leg connectors are attached to your top bar, you're ready to start assembling your legs.
Next, we need to assemble the legs. This can be done with one person, but it is a lot easier with two people. So if you have a friend, I recommend grabbing their help at least for the first time or two that you set the rig up. The more practice that you have with this, the easier it will be. To connect the legs, you will insert the legs into the leg connectors, starting with the ones on the bottom. This will make it a lot easier to get them pinned into place. The leg connectors and the leg have holes that need to be aligned in order to insert the pins. You may need to rotate or wiggle the legs in order to get the holes to line up. The D-pins hold the legs in place, and you need to insert them from the outside inwards and close them by bringing the D part around to the middle of the rig. You'll repeat this process with all four of the legs. When your rig first comes packaged from the manufacturer, the legs will have pins on the bottom that keep all three layers of the pole in place. I recommend keeping those pins on as you're assembling these legs, as it will make it a lot easier to pull the rig upright. However, if you've been using your rig and you have been putting it in storage, you may or may not have replaced those pins. So just be mindful of that for this next step, as it may cause the legs to come out as you lift the rig. Now it's time to lift the rig. This is a step where it's really helpful to have a partner to help you. You need to make sure that you have plenty of floor space, especially if those legs are not pinned at the bottom. Bend from the knees and carefully lift up to a standing position. From here, you can readjust and center the rig into the area you want to set it up. Next, we will adjust the top bar connectors and attach your apparatus if you want to at this stage. So those top bar connector loops need to be tightened and placed to where you want them. In order to tighten them, you need to get your hex key out It's usually shipped within the bag of pins. Tighten the connectors by turning the hex key in a clockwise direction to tighten the screws. If you have a second person, at this point, they can be removing the pins from the bottom of the leg, or you can do that step once you finish tightening the top bar connectors. Make sure those connectors are really tight and don't wiggle when you shake them. Now is a good time to attach your apparatus. This is a great opportunity because the rig is low and you can really easily attach anything you need to those top bar connectors. Here I'm showing how to connect a yoga hammock set using either daisy chains to lower the hammock as needed, or if you prefer a higher hammock, you can connect the carabiners directly to those top bar connectors. It all depends on the length of your hammock and how high you want it to be. I have a 5-meter hammock here, and you'll see that when this is fully assembled, it is pretty high, but still good for a taller person. But most people probably would want to use daisy chains when using the 5-meter hammock if they're setting the rig at the maximum height, like we'll show you in this video. So if you attach those carabiners, make sure that they're locked into place before moving to the next step. The next step will be extending the legs. To extend the legs, make sure that you grab a few pins to have on hand. Here you have some options. If your ceiling height is 8 foot or under 8 foot, I recommend that you extend the middle layer and the top layer together. You can use a pin to align these two layers and kind of be like a placeholder for you to be able to extend both layers together up and down to the height that you need. If you're setting at those lower heights under 8 feet, the pin that you insert to hold it in place will go through all 3 layers of pull. If you are extending to 8 feet and you might want to go above 8 feet, then you need to extend just the top layer and lower the middle layer down. So you'll need to lower the middle layer almost all the way down, but not quite all the way, so that you'll be able to find the hole on the middle layer. There is only one hole at the top of the middle layer. So in order to expose that, you have to, again, lower the bottom layer just a little bit because those legs are telescopic and are meant to be able to completely collapse for storage. When pinning the middle layer and the top layer together, you have a few options here. In the video, I am pinning this on the first hole on the top layer. So the top layer is going to have 3 holes. The bottom hole, the first hole that you see, is going to bring it to the tallest height possible. You have a hole 3 inches above that, and then another hole 3 inches above that that allows you even more versatility for the exact height you want the rig to be set at. So if your ceiling height is 11 feet, you can set it at that middle hole on the top layer rather than the bottom hole, and that will allow you to fit it just perfectly in there, making the most of the ceiling height that you have. This is helpful to know if you need just a few inches higher or lower in any other setting, you can adjust using this top layer. So I'll repeat this on the other side. And I'd like to note it is possible to do this with just one person. It does take a little bit more time and patience as you have to go one leg at a time. And I recommend doing one side and then the other side to make this as easy as possible. Each pin should be inserted from the outside inwards, and you'll use the D part of the pin to connect on the other side by putting the pin towards the middle of the rig. Once you have all 4 legs connected, it is time to move to the next layer. For the next step, you will be extending the middle layer and connecting the middle and the bottom layers together. So go ahead and grab a few more pins to move to the next step. Connecting the bottom layers is a little bit easier as the rig is already somewhat off the ground, and you have a lot more height options here. There are 8 holes in the bottom layer. So if you want the rig set at the maximum height, you will need to insert the pin on the 8th hole. As you're extending, be mindful of those white caps And if you see the white cap showing through the holes, realize that that is the end of the pole and make sure that you do not extend beyond the bottom hole um, to avoid causing the legs from being lodged or coming apart. You can count the holes for each leg that you extend to make sure that all legs are at the same height. Repeat this process for all four of the legs. Once all of the legs have been pinned in place, we need to stabilize the rig a little bit more. To do so, widen the feet of the rig, making sure that each foot is flat on the ground, as increasing the footprint will increase the stability. When the feet are as wide as they can without sliding the rig, it's time to add the stabilizing straps. These straps come in two pieces and can be connected by pressing down on the clip and inserting the long end of the strap through the bottom of the clip. When connected, each end of your strap will have a sewn loop that you can use to attach it to the pins to the rig. You can attach these straps using the existing layer of pins that you have connecting the bottom and middle layer of the poles, or you can add additional pins if you want these straps to be lower to the ground. Your preference on this height might change depending on the height of the rig and the height of your apparatus. Once the straps are tightened in place, you are about ready to get started. We always recommend using a crash pad under your aerial apparatus for safety. We have these purple panel mats available on our website, and two of them can be connected to fit nicely in the footprint of the rig. And there you have it. The rig is set up and ready to go. To disassemble the rig, you will repeat the steps for assembly in the reverse order. First, remove any mats. Loosen the stabilizing straps on each side of the rig. And then you can remove those pins connecting the bottom and middle layers of pole. Please do so carefully as when you remove those pins, the poles will begin to shift downwards. It's best to keep a hand on the rig to be able to guide it slowly and with control. You can wiggle the rig downwards, and once that middle layer has come down to the bottom, you can remove the next layer of pins. When that layer of pins is removed, you can go ahead and guide the rig downwards, wiggling back and forth, walking the feet downwards to collapse the layers of the rig. At this point, you can remove your apparatus if you haven't already done so. And then you'll want to start removing the legs one at a time. Remove the pins carefully as the legs can fall. Make sure that you're holding the top bar and leg connectors with one hand and the leg with your other hand to prevent anything from falling unexpectedly. Lower the legs carefully to the ground. Repeat this process until you have all four legs removed. Once all four legs had been removed, you can break down the rig just a little bit further in order to fit in the optional carrying bags. The bags come in two pieces. You have a large rectangular bag for the legs and the top bar, and you have a square bag for the other bits and pieces. There's a diagram in the manual showing how to insert the legs into the rectangular bag. The trick is to insert them with the pole in first, tucking the feet in after the pole has gone through the sleeve of the bag. There's Velcro to keep everything securely in place. The remaining pieces will go in the square bag for easy transport and organization so you don't lose any parts. This concludes the aerial rig assembly and disassembly video. The Uplift Active team is always here to help if you have any questions about our product, usage, setup, or disassembly. Please email us and we are happy to help.